This is Stephen Strang, and welcome to the Strang Report for Thursday, May 5th. That's Cinco de Mayo. I know people will be listening a long time from now, and this is a very popular holiday. And 1 week from today, on May 12th, 2022, will be the premiere of our first major documentary to be in theaters, 822 theaters around the country. And interest is building. Jonathan Cahn has been on all kinds of programs, including CBN, Jim Baker, and a lot of others. And, our company produced this. We've been watching the numbers. And from what we can tell, this Fathom event is double the recent Fathom events they've had. In our area, they even added a second screen because the first theater sold out. So in my podcast today, I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to give some background information. You don't want to miss this, and this is one that you want to share with people. So stay tuned to hear more about the Jonathan Cahn documentary called Harbingers of Things to Come on Thursday, May 12th.
Welcome to the Strang Report with Stephen Strang, the founder of Charisma. This podcast is to encourage you to experience the power of the Holy Spirit and to discuss spiritual issues facing the church, our nation, and the world.
Welcome back. I'm excited that not only did they add a second theater in our area, and I'm sure in other areas, I just don't have the information, but they've added a second showing, which is the following Thursday, May 19th. This just happened in the last 5 days. This is a major documentary. It's really a documentary of Harbinger 2, which is his latest big book, his New York Times bestseller, that say that the Harbingers did not end with 9/11, but continue. It's a prophetic warning. It's powerful. There's lots of action. It's amazing to me that he was able to boil down that very long book into a 90-minute documentary. It's riveting. It's the kind of thing you can take your friends to. And we're seeing that theaters are beginning to sell out. Now there's a second showing a week later, which is really good because I think a lot of the people that come the first week are going to want to take people the second week. And of course, I've been involved with this. We had to invest a pretty substantial sum to do this documentary, but we felt this was so important, we had to get the word out. The message is the same as the book, but the medium is different. There's emotion with the visual aspect, and you know how the editors all cut in flying planes into the towers and, just different scenes, very rapid pace. You can't do that in print. You can describe things in print, but it's just a different medium. And there are a lot of people that will watch a documentary that won't read a long book. The book is really worth listening to. And by the way, Jonathan Cahn recently shared this with CBN News. He reveals the stunning, long-hidden prophetic images in the new Harbinger of Things to Come motion picture. And even there's some images that haven't been revealed till now. And also, I'll just tell you that at the end of the documentary, we're revealing for the first time the title and the cover of his new book, which is going to come out the day after Labor Day. Very often we have waited to reveal the title and the book until pretty close to the release date. There's a certain mystery about it, but also I'll tell you, just as Jonathan's publisher, that sometimes he's making changes almost until we go to press, and likely he will be this time too. But we will be revealing this at the end of this major motion picture. We're not even telling our own staff the title. And I haven't even seen the cover myself, but I know it'll be good because we have a very good design team. So I just wanted to give my personal endorsement to this documentary. I've watched it, I think, 3 times. I saw a very early cut, and then I saw, of course, the final cut. Everything's embargoed right now. Once the Fathom event people came and we had an agreement. They're very good at doing this. They've been doing it for years. And it's a secular company, but they have been very good for faith-based movies and documentaries, often which have trouble getting into the theaters. especially when you're competing against some of the big movies that are out there. But what they've done, and it's very ingenious, is they take a night of the week that usually has fairly small numbers. In this case, it's Thursday. I actually went to a Fathom event for a movie. It wasn't a documentary. It was a movie with a theme and all that kind of stuff. It was called The Mulligan, starring Pat Boone. In fact, I'm going to do a podcast with Pat Boone. And I know the producer of The Mulligan. I thought it was a great thing. But theirs was on Monday and Tuesday night, 2 days in a row. And I went on Tuesday night, and I thought of all my golfing buddies that I've been, a couple of them at the club that I've been witnessing to, and I thought, boy, I would have taken them. So when the Fathom people put our second day a week later, I was glad. But I just thought I'd give you that little bit of insight about what they do. And so, we're motivated, of course. And there are other people motivated. There are a lot of people who love Jonathan Cahn, who believe that his books are more than just interesting books about current events, but they're actually prophetic words from a man with enormous insight, enormous credibility, who is very, very concerned of what's happening. And not only that, but he sees God's hand in it and shows all these things that have happened that show God is in control. Because in the wider culture, especially in the secular media, there is no awareness at all that God is in control. If anything, people ridicule God. In fact, they use the term act of God to be things like hurricanes. And they would consider that a lot of things in the Bible are myths, that they just totally discount, et cetera, et cetera. But you know what? When you read Harbinger 2, or when you go to this documentary, you can't help but see God's hand. You can't help but going, wow. I had that reaction myself. And you have to understand that I know Jonathan Cahn very well. I've published every one of his books. I'm usually the second or third person to even read the manuscript when he writes them out. And even I go, wow. And that's why I am personally motivated to get as many people into the theater as possible. And I need your help. You can go on fathomevents.com. You put in your zip code. It'll show all the theaters in your area. There are 3 very close, relatively close driving distance to where I live. And there are other theaters in Orlando, but they're kind of on the other side of town. But, the zip code showed the 3 closest. You do the same thing. You go in, you buy the tickets. I think it's $12.50. Don't hold me to it. But that's what I remember. I've already bought tickets myself, and they let you pick the seat that you're in. And actually, when you do it, you can kind of see how many are sold out in your own theater. And I hope you'll do this. It is well worth $12.50, I promise you. Now, recently, I met with Jonathan Cahn. I was up in New Jersey. We were talking about the Fathom event. We were in a busy restaurant. And I just felt that some of the things we were talking about I should record. So I turned on my cell phone. It's got a pretty good mic. I apologized to my listeners to say, you can hear the clanking dishes in the background. But, it's very easily listened to, and actually all of that just brings a certain authenticity to it. I did an entire podcast on it already. It's really not that long, the interview itself. And we've gone and we've pulled it. And if you've listened this long, I thought you'd want to hear from Jonathan Cahn himself. So without further ado, we're going to just play that interview again. Of course, you can go on Charisma Podcast Network and hear the other version. They're listed by name. It was about a month ago that I did it. But I just felt that it would kind of be a good way to close this podcast. And then afterward, I'll be back with a few comments. Okay, I'm talking to Jonathan Cahn. We're in a noisy restaurant, but this is reality. And we've been talking about Harbinger of Things to Come, which is coming out in just barely a month in 800 theaters. And so I want to ask you, Rabbi, what do you hope to accomplish with this movie, this theatrical release?
Well, we are witnessing America rapidly accelerating away from God. And the messages of the Harbinger 2, are warnings, are prophetic, revelations and warnings for God's people. Number one, to know what's happening, where we are going, where we are, where we stand. And also for those who are not saved, I'm hoping that not only is a wake-up call for the body, but also that they would bring their friends and bring people who don't know the Lord, because it is a real wake-up call for people who don't even believe, to say, whoa, what is this? So it's kind of like a prophetic message in film, with imagery and all sorts of things. And there are things in there. There are footage that has basically never been shown. The prophetic imagery as well of what's happening now that came. So I'm very happy with it, but I believe it's like taking a prophetic trumpet call and warning and revelation of where we are, putting it into motion picture. And by the grace of God, that it's opening up all over the country and movie theaters is amazing to me. So I just know America needs something gigantic, revival, and I pray that God would use this.
Well, I just watched your first two documentaries, Mystery of the Shemitah and The Harbinger itself. Both were very good. Neither had the production values. In other words, we upped our game, did a lot of it on location. And the amazing thing to me as your publisher is that we took a book. How big is the Harbinger 2? I'd have to look at the close to 300 pages, and got it down to 90 minutes. So,
Yeah.
But the story's there. So,
Yeah.
what did you leave out?
Yeah, well, you can't do everything. The book's going to have what the movie, and the movie's going to have things that the book doesn't. The movie's you're actually going to see it happening. You're going to hear it, see the harbingers, see what's happening, and what's happened since the harbingers that have happened since the first book, and what's happening right now, and where it's going. And again, something that was recorded kind of in secret, in a prophetic gathering, which I allude to at the end of the Harbinger, the Statue of Liberty thing, where you're actually going to see these prophetic images which have never been seen. So it has things that are nowhere else, and so I just prayed, Lord, what do you want to get out, and to get out to more people, because there are people who read a book and there are people who don't read books, but there are people of relatives and others who won't read a book, but hey, I'll come out, I'll come to the movies, and we're praying that people use it as a vessel for salvation as well as God's message for now, for this hour.
Well, the Fathom event people have been very successful with other events. They know what they're doing, and they told us that most events are 400 theaters, and this is 800, which they thought was a very, very good indication. Then I find out today that here in your area, New Jersey, some of the theaters are almost sold out.
Yeah, we're trying to, I may not be able to see it. We're trying to, we were going to do it.
I think we can get a showing for you.
I appreciate that. We were trying to get, to do a group sales, for the people in the congregation who want to come from Beth Israel. And we found out from two people that it's just about sold out, so we have to figure that one out. We're going to see if we can ask them to put it on more screens, But it's in all areas, pretty much for the country.
Well, 800, there's, we
50,
think of the
50 states. So
right, and we think of the 50 biggest metropolitan areas, which would cover most of the country that's populated, of course, and several theaters in each area. But it's exciting. There is an evangelistic outreach in this, and like you said, the people would come, and also a chance to wake up America. What's it going to take? But this is a different medium to get out the word. There's print, there's movies, and of course you'll be on a lot of TV shows talking about it as well. Yeah, we've never done this. We've never done it in the theaters. We were praying about it. Should it be? And Lord confirm it if it is, and it just took off. The momentum of this just took off very powerfully. So I don't know if there's anything been quite like this in movie theaters when you think about it. So I'm hoping that everybody makes the most of this, spreads the word, tells their pastors tell your congregations, get the word out. We're praying for revival. We're praying for a wake-up call, and that's what this is, a trump call across America by the grace of God, that all these theaters, major theaters, have opened up their doors. So it's pretty amazing. So we want to make the most of it. And then we've started publicizing that there is something exciting happening at the end.
Yes.
So how can we say to my listeners what's going to happen at the end of the movie?
Right after the movie, it's a reveal. It's revealing something that we've kept under wraps for quite some time. Do you want me to say more or just leave it like that?
It's up to you.
Well, it's under wraps, and it's so confidential that we've had to say if people saw it too much, they'd have to be shot. But aside from that, no, it's under wraps, and it's going to be revealed for the first time that night.
And it's your new book, which is coming out September 6th, the day after Labor Day, and we have very tight security. I haven't even seen the cover.
Yeah,
we're just
really?
keeping.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And we haven't revealed the title.
No, the title is going to be revealed that night, and the cover is going to be revealed that night. Nobody's seen the book yet. Nobody,
including the editors.
Nobody on earth has seen the book. It's going to be the most explosive book I've ever written. So pray that God, it's a real. It is the and we've written some pretty edge books. But this is the most explosive. This one that's coming out in September. We'll reveal it that night.
Well, that's exciting. I'm excited that you're standing up and being a prophetic voice. So I was talking to somebody this week, and they thought that you were an end times prophet. Like when is the rapture going to take place?
Uh-huh.
I said, no, he's a prophetic voice speaking what God is saying to the nation and the culture. And you've had an enormous impact. And I just want to thank you for all that you've done and for the privilege of partnering with you.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Steve. I could not do it. I could not do it alone. I could not do it without you. The Lord ordained that. We know that from that amazing supernatural encounter at the airport before there was any publishing. It was the Lord who did that. And we know it's the Lord. We know it's the Lord's hand. I was just praying, Lord, you know how to get words out to nations. And then that happened. So this is all, we're just all honored to be used of the Lord as his vessel. That's the best that we could do, and it's the best thing we could ever do.
And of course, that's true for each of us who are believers in Yeshua. But for some reason, the Lord has raised you up and given you all this insight. And you can help other people to see what's happening, sounding the alarm as a watchman. Because really, the entire body of, how do you say it? Body of Messiah?
Messiah, that's sure. Body of Christ, but body of Messiah, yeah.
Because really, everyone's got to wake up. Part of the problem is that the church has been asleep.
Yeah, and this is the time we have to be more radical than ever, because the times are radical. These are prophetic times. We have to be prophetic people. The nation, the culture around us is racing away from God as never before. We've never seen anything like this. And I believe that's why it's all the more important to sound the trumpet. The first job I really had since I was a believer was when I was going to college. I was a night watchman. So I think we're called to be watchmen. I knew that was for such a time as this.
I hope you enjoyed that. Now, I just want to close out the podcast by asking for your help. We need you to buy a ticket and go to the documentary. We need you to bring people who you think the Lord would have you take with you. And I need you to forward this podcast to people. That's just a small thing you can do to help us get out the word. And then Jonathan Cahn has said in other settings, and I'll just concur, that you can also pray. Really, this is a prophetic word to the nation. This isn't just about selling theater tickets or even selling books, but there's just something about it in our culture. When something is big, everybody sits up and takes notice. If it's not big, it can be important. Just everybody yawns and just, they're busy and they don't pay a bit of attention. So help us make this big. Every one of his books has been on the New York Times bestseller. The Harbinger, the first one, was on for 102 weeks in a row, if I remember correctly. Basically 2 years of every Sunday. I think maybe it fell off one Sunday. It was some kind of glitch, and then it came right back. But basically 2 years on New York Times bestseller. The others have all been on the bestseller list, but not for that long. We have high hopes for his new book, but this isn't even about his new book. It's about the documentary, and I'm just trying to explain a little bit of the background and also the urgency and my own passion for getting the word out. And again, I'll say it again, forgive me for being redundant, but I think it's important. I need your help to pray, to buy tickets, to go, to take friends, to share this podcast. Thank you for listening to the Strang Report today on the Charisma Podcast Network. God bless you.
Thank you for listening to the Strang Report with Stephen Strang. Stay up to date with the latest episodes by subscribing on your favorite podcast app and at cpnshows.com. Get the latest reports delivered directly to your inbox by subscribing at strangreport.com.